not ostracized players, or also just like other different new players that maybe see the scene as like kind of too competitive or scared to start trying to compete at a high level and break into maybe playing on a team of some sort. Do you see anything today kind of like shifting towards developers helping and keeping that from being such a large issue? Or do you think there's something else that could be done to kind of like alleviate that like pressure from say playing online with too many toxic players or teammates?
Harassment is one of the biggest things that comes about and has effect on any marginalized group for sure. Especially myself as a woman, but I know, other groups that can be identified instantly online. It's not like everyone's not being harassed, they are, but when you're attacked specifically because of a diverse characteristic, it's a whole different ball game. So publishers and developers, you have seen some movement, but they should continue to look at ways. How are they moderating the players? How are they, putting in systems that can, help mitigate that and help punish, the people that are breaking that? That's what they can do. I think that harassment itself, I think when I was looking, 60% of people, experience harassment, and 25% choose to stay away from some of the games, and then 20% will actually quit a game. So literally because of harassment based on a diverse characteristic. So that's where they should focus.
I would also want to chime in on harassment with, it's again our collective responsibility to make sure that harassment that, say terrible things online in certain situations, and you just have to be diligent in pointing that out to them and pointing out to, even if they're not a friend, a colleague, an associate, somebody that you just know exclusively online, making sure that everybody understands that there's a manner that we should all behave in when playing games and
that's
interacting with each other.
That's where allyship comes in, and that's the definition of an ally. How am I with my voice and my actions standing up for something that I'm seeing is wrong, and that is absolutely, if we're going to change perception as a whole, as a diversity, it absolutely relies on the allies first. They're the ones that can speak up for us.
And I would even add to that, it starts as early as possible and from every level of gameplay. And I kind of see esports right now, you have the best of the best in the pro leagues that are being developed or that are being maintained by the developers. And then there's an amateur-ish scene, and then collegiate somewhat now getting on the rise. And then even now high school and middle school are pretty much are starting to kind of incorporate it into their like regular curriculum almost, or extracurriculars. So having every single age group understand how open gaming should be should basically change the next generation's like outlook on. Definitely.
As a minority group, any minority group, it's really hard to get the non-cultural. But this new generation coming up, which I want so bad, it's going to be the generation that helps push it over. People quote the 50% in gaming, but that's casual gaming. When you get to competitive gaming, it's a different story. It's a very small. So if we get them young, because that's really the problem, losing them young, they might come back. But if they're not starting and staying the whole time, they're never going to be at a professional level. So getting them and keeping it, those are the things that you guys can do, and keep pushing it to your little sisters, keep pushing it, to anybody on any diverse group. We need those representations, and that's how either you or someone can be pushed up.
Yeah, that's actually another question. How can we make sure that more people can chime in and help to have a more diverse competitor body and just spectator body, player body also, and it comes to also the different attendees to different events like South by Southwest Gaming, PAX, and other things like, I guess one of the biggest now in North America is DreamHack growing in Dallas and Austin previously, but I would love to hear how South by Southwest Gaming is trying to make sure that more people are attending for various different reasons rather than just competing or something.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier we have these very specific programming guidelines in which we ensure diversity across our conference. Beyond that though, and I think this is common in any event, is that you emphasize diversity lounges, meetups, groups, networking opportunities for people of all backgrounds. It's not a problem to have a women in games meetup and not White Tech Bros meetup. You know, it's like you just gotta tell yourself, hey, you know, we want to empower certain groups and bring them into the conversation where, you know, maybe they don't have a voice beforehand, and you just gotta keep doing that. And I feel like we do a really good job at South by representing a lot of different voices throughout the entirety of our conference and every one of our festivals. I also think that once you start going to gaming conventions, you start noticing that there's also a lot of push for diversity, inclusion, and events around that. And you know, I think I can't really name. I wouldn't name anybody who's doing a bad job of it. But if anybody has a public image of not being diverse, it's typically because of an individual or like again an individual community member, individual professional. I hardly find it that a brand itself is not being diverse or a whole organization.
Something I actually wanted to question, or more so just hear what your perspective is on, is having a full female or full different, honestly, team of some sort. I know there's like a Swedish team that got a lot of publicity recently that was a Swedish CSGO team that were
It's
all
always
senior
CS.
citizens. And
They're the only ones.
yeah. Just kind of what do you see those teams doing, and then is there any sort of like maybe opportunity for like a league of, say, nothing but only of a certain age group, of a certain gender, or anything in between?
I mean, obviously, when I first started, we were full female, and there were lots of us. And I really believed that, again, there was two reasons. We didn't start to like support and empower like we ended up doing pretty quickly on. We supported because, you know, it was more of a, we're going to beat the bully, right? And that's why we formed. So working upon that, we just, I don't even know. It came across where when you're looking at the amateur leagues, you can almost see professional esports was an amateur league back then. People came and qualified like I was talking about, right? So I believe that amateur leagues are necessary for multiple reasons. The gating and giving the opportunity and profiling, and how do we raise the profile of people. They have more of an opportunity to do it that way. It is absolutely the responsibility of companies and everyone to raise those profiles of diverse groups. There's a reason they're marginalized, and without role models, people don't have anything to follow. They don't know it's attainable. They don't know that they can do it. That's just the way it is across the board. In workplaces, anytime you've seen diversity raised on anything, not just gaming, that's why it's done. In terms of all female, yes, we started that way. I don't believe that is the course where ultimately there is no barriers in terms of I'm a female, I'm playing against a male. Should you be able to beat me? No, and you're not gonna. But at the same time, like that's how it is. So I believe that they have the ability to raise the profile, and they should have their place. Absolutely. I don't see it at the end game of esports. I see co-ed teams, integrations like that being the end game.
Anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think my thought when it comes to diversity, again, I just don't really have a problem with like any exclusive kinds of groups unless it's like only supporting the majority already, you know? I'd love to see like a Latinx esports community in Texas, right? You know, that'd be cool. I also am curious when we talk about that though, and this is just maybe my own personal perspective, but like I don't personally identify as maybe Latino or Hispanic, and I am, but I'm like, it's not something I'm one or the other. I'm just kind of me, right? And I'm curious generationally if the younger generations are just more prone to thinking in those kind of guidelines of like, I'm just me, you know? And when we talk about diversity from our perspective, or you know, older individuals trying to kind of make sense of what we need to do to improve the scene, it's like, you know, why focus on any individual group more than just making it normalized, like everybody's part of it, you know? I don't know, I just kind of get lost in the diversity conversation sometimes because personally, I just feel like I'm just me and I'm just a gamer.
I think that's a problem though, to be honest, because there's a lot of women, and no offense on that, but there's a lot of women themselves that are like, I'm just a gamer, that are top and with putting gaming, and even other diversity groups, and they're like, I'm just playing, I'm just equal. You're not at a point you can be equal right now. You are a role model whether you accept it or not. And honestly, we need them. We need them to own it and step up and say, you are part of this, you know, marginalized group. You're an inspiration. People are going to play because of you. They are. There are. I see someone like me. I know it's obtainable, right? That is basic psychology. So I feel, and I remember Rafiq back in the esports days with PC, with John and everyone else. Rafiq was the only African male on PC. This is a cultural issue and sociological, how much, the income and where African males have access to PC. Did they have access to buy this expensive equipment? And culturally, not necessarily. So it was very minority group, right? He went and built LAN centers like in Africa and did all this stuff and raised awareness. He definitely inspired. I saw good kids come up to him at tournaments and be like, I want to be just like you, African American males. So, or black males, I should say, sorry. But yeah, they inspired, and I think that people should own that. You as a Latino, do you feel like there's any marginalized, are you marginalized in any area of competitive esports?
No. I mean, I understand where the marginalization exists and how, and I've been totally acknowledging of the fact that there's a diversity gap. I guess what I'm saying is an open question to everyone else is that, how do you feel when it comes to diversity conversation? Because we obviously have this certain perspective about how, everyone should have these role models and everybody should be in these groups and everybody should partake in these certain initiatives. But again, the individuals who are going to have to go through that are the younger generations and children now. And so I'm just curious how they think about it and how they're going to approach it in maybe a way that we just don't see. And again, diversity matters, and we need role models, and the effect of having somebody that you can look up to can't be nominalized, this is like having that one role model changed 500 people, but it's, I don't know, I just kind of was opening
I've been to Brazil and Mexico, I love those gamers, all that passion. I do feel like you are and could be marginalized in certain areas, though, of gaming, in terms of, I know it costs them, and I'm using because they're in those poor areas where it costs $800 to buy an Xbox, right? When you're down in Latin America. So they don't have the opportunity to get as much on a larger base when you're looking at, racial issues on there too.
So my counter question then is if your focus is, and historically that is true because consoles and any kind of high-end device costs so much in other regions of the world, yet everybody has mobile phones. So why wouldn't we then not say maybe the future of esports and the future diversity is mobile esports or something like that?
No one's not saying that.
Well, I guess
I agree with you.
I'm just seeing that point about, there's not as many gamers because they didn't have consoles as, well, maybe the kind of gamer that they are is just a mobile gamer or something. I don't know.
No, and I do see. I mean, they're trying to push that all the time. I mean, mobile gaming is huge, but you can still look at that more as a casual at this moment. And again, when you go casual, that goes back to the statistics, 50% women, that's playing on their mobiles. That's not, at least right now, hardcore competitive esports gaming. But they've had them. They've had esports tournaments.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to open up actually to Q&A for anyone in the audience that has a question or would like to comment on anything that was made recently. If not, okay. And feel free to throw the, yeah, just talking to it.
Wait.
I can turn it up.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's supposed to.
That's what I said. I'm like, I'm going to take that with, or get one and take it with me everywhere.
I think I heard it.
Go for it.
We can hear it. Hi, my name's Denise. I'm the president of Women in Gaming here at UT. I actually founded it. Last year. I know, royalty. I was just kind of curious because I know you guys touched a little bit on this, but do you think the discrimination in gaming is better or worse now? Because I feel like from my side, like I grew up with the technology and the internet, and I feel like most of the discrimination happens on those like anonymous online, like during stream chats or when you're playing Overwatch and the voice chat or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm curious, since you guys you've been in it for a long time, what you really think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't changed at all. It is still the same. What has changed is the tools and accessibility. So even though people say that they are not getting, even if, they think it's better now, right? But it's because we have the ability to turn off voice chat or not, you couldn't filter yourself back in the day. If you wanted to communicate, if you were playing with people, you had to talk that way. I had that problem with Overwatch when I went, all of my clanmates were sitting in Discord and they weren't in the rooms. And my concern with that is like, I want to talk to the people I'm talking at. And they're right. They're like, no, you're going to get railed. And we did. But it was, like 1 in every 5 matches we had it actually a little worse probably before, but 1 in every 5 matches, there's, you know, a shit talker. But we were able to recruit from that. Like, the fact that that's kind of what made me realize, I'm like, we're shutting ourselves off from the other women. Like, you guys, what are you doing? You don't even know, like, if there's women there, and we're not able to bring them into our group, into our support network, which could have an impact later in their gaming experience, right? So I started making everyone go into the open chat.
Are we any better now at harassment? Obviously not. But I feel this strange sense of, you know, things are way worse, but at the same time they are better because of the fact that there's such immediate feedback and open communication between everyone. So just as likely as someone can harass you, you can turn it around on them and hold them responsible for it, where that wasn't something that existed in the past.
To report them.
Now, again, where does responsibility lay in changing that behavior? Maybe not on the platform side, maybe not on the allies, exactly. It's community, and so I think things are just, you know, it's a whole different world, same kind of problems in the end.
Anyone behind a computer's gonna have them. I mean, there's a reason why if you saw the keynote where they're like, hey, all the chat voted for, you know, what would be considered the bad thing. Yes, there's trolls online. There always will be. But find a good group that's supportive. Play with allies. Play with those other groups that are like you. Play with everyone that can support and recognize, and then you'll have a better time. Team play is where I think it really changes the game, when you have people, friends that you know, then you don't really care as much, and they'll protect you.
Cool. And if is there any other questions?
I'd love more questions. Let's keep it going.
Hello. So I kind of had 2 questions actually. So getting over like the stereotypes of like women kind of being seen as maybe inferior or not as good as like males playing video games, how did you first get over that stereotype? Because I know a lot of girls who are trying to kind of get over that, or they're just not seen as like the same level, I guess, and they kind of, like you said, they may hide themselves because they don't seem as if they're equal to like their counterparts in gaming.
That's what gets to the problem. I remember when we first started, especially Frog Dolls, and they would come in, it was forums back then, but they would come into the forum and they'd just be like, you're a bunch of girls, you suck ass, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. And for like the first few months, I literally challenged them. Come play me a game, I'm gonna kick your butt, you're gonna learn what it is. And in fact, we got some of our strongest community members that way later in the game. But it was that strong need to like prove myself, right? Like, I have to prove myself. It took quite a while before I realized I ain't gotta prove it to you. You have to grow up and learn to respect people and understand that you don't have any special ability that I can't have, right? So I put it back on them. I'm not gonna remake myself or anything. I'm going to own, and it kind of goes back to my clan name. I'm going to own what I am. You want to take something negative, I'm going to prove it positive, and you're going to just be proved wrong. But they got to learn it.
No, I don't know if I'm necessarily a subject matter in women in games, but
well, think of any diversity group in that way then.
Yeah. I feel ashamed because I've never felt like I've been marginalized.
Really?
So, yeah, or maybe I'm just too oblivious to it. But it's like
you're not. You don't have. Probably you're online. You don't have like a camera or anything unless you're streaming. You're probably not easily identified like we are. A lot of the diversity groups, whether it be part of the LGBTQ community or female community, at times we have characteristics that can identify ourselves. So you probably don't hit it like we get hit.
Well, also, the greatest strength of my Trash days was that I felt as though Heroes of New Earth was the greatest cesspool of them all, and so like I came from the darkness, and they just like it doesn't affect me. So like I just turn off trolls and negative behavior just like that, and I don't know. So that's why I say maybe sometimes I'm just too oblivious.
I can't explain to you if you haven't. It's just 10 times worse when it's something that is like it's like your pinpoint. I'm a marginalized group, and I'm being harassed because of that. I'm being picked on. I'm being bullied because of that. There's something like that. It's like, it brings out something in you. It's different. It's just different than everyday harassment everyone would get, because they're harassing everyone. They just know the bullet to hit first on us easily, right? So it's just the same bullet repeatedly.
The hardest part I see, and this stems from my experience with the Twitch community, is when women are being bullied for being women on Twitch for whatever reasons, because there's a myriad of them. But then all of a sudden, instead of being allies, women in some certain situations just turn on each other. And like, I'm not like that. I'm not like that person, so I don't deserve the harassment. And like, and it's just kind of, I don't know. I see that as a problem, and I wish that, again, going back to the ally statement, we just always stand up for each other and we respect each other. And that also doesn't mean that anybody should just get away with bad behavior, but I think the priority here is just not turning on each other. Anyways. And was that the second question?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I had one more question. So I'm part of Women in Gaming too. I'm actually the events director. Woo, yeah. But we are recently trying to expand like our competitive kind of outreach and stratosphere, and we are trying to foster people getting into the competitive scene for things like Overwatch and League of Legends and stuff like that, and not necessarily going headfirst into esports, but just trying to introduce people into the competitive scene. So do you have like any advice for us going into like that environment?
Yeah, join PMS Clan.
Yeah.
How about that?
Okay.
I need the young ones because we have lots of opportunities and lots of ways to uplift. So I think that it is important, and I kind of bring back where people were playing, like we were playing with the pros. Make sure you're looking at putting diverse groups together. That includes, not just marginalized groups. How are you getting the kind of playing field and people playing together that can help? I think that, developing programs that also, if you're, that look for diversity, even though you're part of a group, there's still multiple legs of women's groups, right? There's, transgender females, right? There's race, all those other groups. How are you actually diversifying your group, right? So doing those internal programs that are that way. And then, of course, publishers, developers, I'm going to go to the marketing leg here. How are you driving promotions? Are you working with these big companies who love diversity and love supporting diversity and really will give a lot? Make sure you reach out. Make sure you work. I can help. I pretty much know everyone in every company. So just look at all those kind of things.
I said this is true. Yeah, I mean, I will emphasize that for her.
Been in the industry a long time.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add.
If there's no other questions,
I want to hear a question from them. They came in so late.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, did you come for the diversity in esports panel? But you came here
How'd
for
the
a
pitches
reason.
go?
Yeah. So I guess my point was you should ask a question
Yeah.
because you came here for a
Sorry,
reason.
if
So what
you
was the
guys
question on
have
your
any
mind?
questions or maybe came and wanted to hear about a specific topic that we can maybe re-bring up.
They're like, why did you call me out?
Because that's what you need to do. Okay, no question. You gotta speak into the question box. It'll come to you.
Okay, what is the primary driver for diversity in esports that you're talking about today?
Driver or effect?
Like, what's your mission with a panel like this?
Oh, I mean, I think the mission would be to educate people on diversity, why it's important, the causes and problems around it, how you can help.
Yeah, to essentially inspire.
Did we cover that, guys? Okay.
I hope so.
Is there something we didn't?
Yeah, I'm curious from, I presume, parents' perspectives, how y'all see esports. I mean, and gaming in general.
Oh, parents over here?
Are y'all parents?
Yeah.
Relatives?
I didn't understand a word.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's speaking Greek. I don't know what games are. I don't know any of this stuff.
It's
Yeah.
a whole different culture.
Yeah.
I'm his mother.
Oh,
I have been privy to years of gaming.
of him screaming in his mic.
And his brothers, and it was when he was 3 and he barely held an Xbox controller. I was like, oh, that's so cute. And then you're like, what have we created? He's a monster. He's addicted. So,
But think of all those social and team leadership, even though there's bad stuff too, it depends on the addiction level and if it's healthy or not. But think of all the social and leadership skills. There's study after study on that.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mind-boggling how, the idea of social gathering is all online.
Yep.
And coming from a different generation, and you're holding as a parent, you're like, oh, get outside. And he's like, well, but this is my social sphere. This is where I interact.
Those relationships are so, almost every single friend I have, again, event world, I got to meet a lot. We all are very socially driven. We met at all major events, but they're all my best friends. I don't really have anyone outside the gaming world, and I see them all the time when I'm traveling.
I think one example I always like to drive
I'm off
home
to
is
BlizzCon
how
next week.
so, go BlizzCon. That's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it
I
is.
think that one of the examples I like to bring up is how in so many ways I can be closer to my online friends than I am to my own family, who sometimes I see once, twice a year if I have to travel to them. But I spend 2 to 4 hours at home online with individuals. You know, it's incredible to think about from a perspective of somebody who may not really use social media or the internet or anything like that, how you kind of maybe see your children and how they have these relationships and think, well, why are they so like close to these people? Well, it's like
Interactive entertainment.
you try spending 4 hours a day with somebody almost every day of the week and then see how your perspective changes, even if they're not right next to you. So anyways, I think that's interesting.
Otherwise, they'd be on TV or something anyway, watching that.
And if there's nothing else anybody wants to ask, then we can wrap it up. And thank you so much for coming out and listening to us.
Great.